Forget everything you have seen in those beautiful movies about Native Americans. There will be no heroic deeds here, no great ancestral wisdom, no magical harmony with nature. What awaits you is the everyday life of a scout from a native tribe during the harsh centuries when every single day turned into a dull and relentless struggle for survival. But before you get comfortable, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments which city you are watching from and what time it is there. I'm really curious to see who has joined us. Now, get comfortable. We're starting. It is not the birds that wake you. No, they are silent, and you would not hear them anyway over the thudding of your own heart. It is always your heart that wakes you, pounding against your ribs like a warning drumbeat, as if to say, "Wake up, you fool," before something else does. You open your eyes into darkness so thick you cannot see the hide ceiling of the shelter, though you can smell it. Old smoke, mildew, sweat. Your face is numb where you pressed it into your fur blanket. There is a dull ache in your jaw from grinding your teeth in your sleep, as always, and when you try to move, you feel the stiffness in your knees, the bite of last night's cold still clinging to your bones. Nobody talks about how cold it gets, not really. The old ones make jokes, and the young ones try to pretend they are not shivering, but you know the truth. You spend most of your life just trying not to freeze to death, or at least not to let the cold crawl so far inside that you forget what it feels like to be warm. You shift, careful not to wake the sleeper next to you. It does not matter, really. They are probably already awake, their eyes wide open, just like yours, thinking the same things. In this life, you do not sleep so much as doze, always waiting for the world to tip into danger. You push yourself up, feeling the familiar grit of dirt and ashes beneath your hands. Your blanket clings to you, full of the hair you have shed, the fleas you have failed to catch, the scent of every sweat drenched, terrified night you have ever survived. There are stories about blankets carrying dreams. Your blanket carries only the weight of dread. Outside, the air is damp and raw, smelling of wet earth and last night's fire. You can hear in the distance a cough, a mutter, the low whine of wind threading through the trees. Somewhere nearby, someone is already awake, poking at the last embers. You envy them for their bravery or their foolishness. You have never figured out which it is, and you doubt you ever will. Your stomach reminds you that you are hungry. You are always hungry. Some days, hunger is a dull ache. Other days, it is sharp and mean, gnawing at you with more persistence than the wolves that follow the camp, hoping for scraps. You try not to think about it, because there is nothing to be done. You eat what you can, when you can, and tell yourself that is enough. That is all anyone ever does. Your hands are numb, so you rub them together, blowing on your fingers, watching the thin coil of your breath vanish into the gloom. Sometimes you wonder what it would be like to wake up warm, rested, safe. What it would be like to wake up and not immediately calculate which direction the wind is coming from, which way the river runs, where the nearest patch of cover is. But these thoughts are dangerous. the kind that make you slow and careless. You brush them away. You stretch, feeling your bones creak. You take inventory, left hand, right hand, both feet, eyes still sharp enough to see trouble before it sees you. Your hearing is not as good as it used to be, but you know how to make up for that. You listen with your skin, your nose, the prickling hairs on the back of your neck. You are the one who must always listen, always see. If you fail, it is not just your skin on the line, but the whole camp's. This is the gift and the curse of being a scout. You pull on your clothes, stiff with old sweat and dirt, patch upon patch, never quite dry, never quite clean. Once, perhaps, you cared about such things, how you looked, how you smelled, what others thought when they saw you. Now, you care only about not making noise, about not leaving a trail. You do not want to be remembered, only to go unnoticed. You do not speak as you slip out of the shelter. Words are for another time, maybe for someone who can afford the luxury of conversation before sunrise. Out here, there is only the silence of the woods and the heavy knowledge that you are not alone. The darkness presses in on you from all sides, making every shape uncertain, every sound a potential threat. You listen, holding your breath, waiting for something, anything, that will tell you which way this day will go. But nothing comes. Just the slow, cold breathing of the earth beneath you and the memory of a dream you cannot quite recall. You tell yourself that is good. No news is always better than bad news. But deep down, you know that today, like every day, you are only borrowing time, and the debt is coming due. You walk away from the shelter, leaving behind the thin warmth of the fire, the smell of smoke, the soft muttering of the ones still asleep or pretending to be. You are already calculating routes, escape paths, the fastest way back if things go wrong. They always go wrong. It is not a matter of if, but when. Your feet sink into the wet earth, and you breathe in the scent of pine and mud. You tell yourself that you are ready, that you have always been ready, that this is what you were born for. But the truth is, nobody is ready, not really. Not for the dark, not for the cold, not for the hunger, and not for the quiet dread that settles on your shoulders like another ragged blanket. You are awake now, and there is no going back. You do not get to enjoy the morning. Morning is not beautiful, not for you, not here. There is no time to watch the mist rise from the earth or to savor the fleeting softness of first light. Your job is to leave camp before anyone else is truly awake, to disappear into the half dark, to become just another shadow beneath the trees. If you are lucky, nobody will even remember which way you went. Luck is rare. The world is wet, not the pleasant wet of summer rain, but the kind that soaks into your bones and will not leave. The grass grabs at your ankles, the thorns tear at your leggings, and every branch seems placed for the express purpose of catching and holding you, reminding you that you are not wanted here. Your moccasins, patched so many times they are more thread than hide, grow heavy with mud. The earth pulls at you, and you can almost hear it whispering that this is where you will end up, sooner or later, like every other scout who thought he could outrun death. You move carefully. Every footstep is a calculation. Will this twig snap? Will this stone shift? You try to place your feet where the deer would, but you are not a deer, and the forest knows it. You pause often, listening. At first, all you hear is your own heartbeat, too loud, too fast. Then, as the silence settles, you begin to pick out other sounds. The distant call of a bird, the scuttling of something small in the leaves, the wind worrying the tops of the trees. You are listening for what should not be there, for the sound that does not fit, for the click of stone against stone, or the soft, sharp intake of breath that betrays another watcher. You circle wide around the camp. You are not looking for danger, you are expecting it. The best you can hope for is that you will find it first, that you will have time to warn the others before it is too late. Your eyes scan the ground, searching for tracks. Most mornings, there is nothing but the evidence of animals: deer, raccoon, maybe a bear if you are unlucky. You know all the signs, and you know how easily you could be fooled. One broken branch can mean anything: a clumsy animal, a strong wind, or something worse. You check anyway, because it is your job, because if you do not, someone will die. Sometimes you find things nobody else would notice: a tuft of hair caught on a bush, a patch of earth scuffed by a careless heel, the faint scent of unfamiliar tobacco on the breeze. You catalog these things in your mind, adding them to the ever growing list of reasons not to sleep tonight, or tomorrow, or ever again. Once, a few weeks ago, you found a feather tied with red thread to a branch near the river, a sign, but you do not know for whom. You did not tell anyone. Sometimes it is better not to share certain secrets, even with your own people. You kneel beside a print in the mud. It is old, but not old enough. The heel is sharp, the edges not yet blurred by rain. Human, not animal. You count the toes, the distance between steps, the direction. Whoever left this print was moving fast, but not running. Confident, maybe, or just tired. You stare at it until your knees ache, trying to will more information out of the earth, as if you could squeeze out the truth the way you might squeeze water from moss. It does not work. The earth keeps her secrets, and you are left with guesses. You rise, brushing mud from your hands, and continue. You check the usual places: the low spot where the creek bends, the game trail that skirts the camp, the old willow with its roots like fingers clutching at the bank. Everything looks the same as yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that. You tell yourself this is good, that no news is good news, but you do not believe it. The world does not stay quiet for long. When it does, it only means that something is coming, something you are not ready for. You pause at the edge of a clearing. The grass is bent where something heavy passed through. You crouch, squinting into the rising light, trying to make sense of it. Maybe a deer, maybe something else. You reach out, touching the stalks. wet, cold, broken at the base. It could be anything. You tell yourself that, but you do not believe it. Paranoia is a luxury here. It is survival. You trust no one, not even your own eyes. You know better than to linger. The longer you stay in one place, the easier it is for someone to find you. You move on, always circling, always watching. You have done this so many times that it feels like your whole life has been one long morning reconnaissance. Maybe it has, maybe it always will be. By the time the sun breaks through the trees, you are tired. Your legs ache, your shoulders are tight with tension, and your stomach is empty. There is nothing romantic about scouting. There are no heroic stories, no rewards. There is only the endless trudge through mud and shadow, the constant fear that today is the day you will not come back. You head for the camp, moving slowly, checking your trail to make sure you are not being followed. You have learned to cover your tracks, but there is always the chance that someone smarter, quieter, or more desperate than you is out here, watching, waiting for you to slip. You do not think about the people in the camp, about what they would do if you did not return. It does not matter. The only thing that matters is the next step, the next sound, the next heartbeat. You walk because there is nothing else to do. Because if you stop, you die. And you are not ready for that. Not yet. By now, your body knows the old animal trails better than it knows rest. Your feet follow them almost out of habit, a muscle memory carved by years of repetitive misery and half conscious calculation. The paths wind through the undergrowth, faint and tentative, never straight, always twisting, always changing, just as the animals themselves change their habits with every season, every shift in the weather, every hint of danger. Your eyes scan the ground because they must. Most people only see dirt and leaves. You see the history of the night, a record written in broken twigs and pressed earth. There is the sharp, deep print of a deer, hooves splayed as it slipped on the wet ground. Over there, the smaller, almost delicate tracks of a fox, each step measured, purposeful, cautious. And in the mud near the creek, the webbed impression of a duck, going nowhere in particular, simply existing, as if that were enough. You wish it was enough for you, but you do not get to simply exist. You have to know, you have to read, you have to interpret and decide. This is the curse of the scout, to know what others would rather not, to see too much and trust it too little. Every trail might be a clue, every sign might be a trick. Out here, the difference between life and death is not courage or strength, but attention, a kind of tired, scraping vigilance that wears you down more surely than hunger or cold ever could. You kneel down, ignoring the protest of your knees. Here, in the soft dirt, is something new, a series of tracks that are almost, but not quite, right. They are similar to the deer's, but heavier, deeper. You brush away some leaves, squinting in the dim light. The edge of the print is too sharp, the stride too wide, the shape not quite the same. Maybe it is just a big animal. Maybe it is nothing, but your gut, which has learned to whisper its own kind of warnings, tells you to be careful. The wind shifts, carrying with it the sharp, familiar stink of wet fur and something else, something less natural. You breathe through your mouth and move on, circling the area, looking for more. There, in a patch of flattened grass, you see where someone, knelt recently. The earth is still damp, the blades still bent. There are a few strands of long black hair stuck to a thorn bush. Your stomach clenches. You are not alone, and you have not been for some time. Most days, the animal trails comfort you. They are predictable, the regular traffic of deer and elk, the wandering of raccoons, the silent, wary crossings of wolves at the edge of your world. They are the background noise of the forest, the ordinary misery you know how to handle. You know the signs of panic, sudden swerve in the deer's path, the way the fox doubles back, the hidden nest torn apart by a careless, hungry bear. But it is different when humans intrude. Their trails are wrong, too straight, too bold, never hidden well enough, yet somehow always more dangerous for their clumsiness. A person leaves more than tracks. They leave behind their fear, their intentions, their hunger. Sometimes they even leave a scrap of cloth, a broken tool, a careless word carried on the wind if you are close enough to catch it. It is always a relief when the only thing you find is the sign of animals. Animals are not out to kill you just because you are there. Not most of the time, anyway. Still, you must be sure. You follow a narrow path through the undergrowth, ducking under low branches, moving like the animals do, always wary of what might be waiting just out of sight. Your hands trail lightly across the bark of a tree, rough, damp, scarred with old claw marks. You wonder what left those marks, and when, and if it is watching you now. Everything is watching if you pay attention long enough. You try not to think about what is watching you today. You come to a place where the path splits. To the left, the ground is churned up as if something big passed by in a hurry. To the right, the grass is undisturbed, but there is a faint scent of smoke in the air, so faint you might have imagined it. You close your eyes, trying to recall the lessons of your elders, how to read the signs, how to trust your senses without being fooled by them. You go left, following the churned earth, telling yourself you are prepared for whatever comes. You are never prepared. The forest is always one step ahead, but you follow anyway, because that is your job. You push on, stepping over a fallen branch, ducking beneath a low hanging bough. Here you find more evidence, a patch of fur snagged on a bramble, a smear of something dark and sticky on a rock. Blood, but not fresh. Maybe animal, maybe not. You crouch and sniff, your nose wrinkling at the metallic tang. Everything in the forest bleeds eventually. You include it, you make a note of it, and move on. After a while, the trail peters out, swallowed by the chaos of leaves and mud and indifferent time. You feel relief, but also disappointment. It would have been easier, in some ways, to find something concrete, an enemy you could see, a danger you could name. The uncertainty is harder to bear, but this is what you do. Follow trails until they end, or until you do. The sky is lighter now, though the sun is still hidden behind a wall of gray clouds. You check your bearings, counting the steps back to camp, making sure you will leave no sign behind. You have learned to hide your own tracks as you go, doubling back, brushing away prints with a bundle of pine needles, stepping in your own footprints whenever you can. You are a ghost among ghosts, and even the animals do not see you unless you want them to. But you are tired. You are always tired. The forest never lets you rest. There are always more trails to follow, more signs to read, more dangers to anticipate. The animals know this too. They live in fear, just like you. The only difference is that, for you, the fear is not only of being hunted, but also of failing those who depend on you. You stand, stretching your aching back, and glance around one last time. The forest is quiet now, the trails empty. For a moment, you let yourself believe that everything is as it should be, that there is nothing lurking in the shadows, nothing waiting to tear your world apart. But you know better. The only thing predictable about the animal trails is that they never stay the same for long. Tomorrow or the day after, you will find new tracks, new threats, new reasons to curse the day you ever agreed to be a scout. You begin the long walk back, eyes scanning the ground, ears straining for any sound out of place, mind already racing ahead to the next problem, the next trail, the next day. And behind you, the forest closes in, erasing your footprints as if you were never there at all. You do not walk quickly back to the camp because there is nothing to rush toward. The longer you linger in the woods, the longer you can pretend that you are still useful, that you are not about to re enter the cramped, smoky circle of disappointment that waits for you every morning. The camp is where the others are. The camp is where the waiting is, and the hunger, and the silent calculations about who will survive the next night. You draw in a last lungful of clean air, heavy with damp and rot, and step out of the brush. The camp is almost exactly as you left it, which is to say, unimpressive. There is no proud palisade, no tidy row of dwellings. There are only a few scattered shelters, made from whatever could be found or stolen, drooping like wilted flowers in the chill. The fire is little more than a smudge of embers, hissing in the damp air, trying to pretend it is not dying. You watch as someone pokes at it with a stick, as if prodding the ashes could make something more appear, more heat, more light, more hope. It never does. There is a smell that clings to every camp: old smoke, wet fur, sweat. The smell of too many bodies crammed too close together, with no privacy and nowhere else to go. You know that every scent you carry, mud, blood, animal musk, the faint tang of fear, will soon be overpowered by this heavier stink. Maybe you will get used to it, you think, as you have gotten used to everything else. Maybe you already have. Nobody is waiting for you with a hero's welcome. That only happens in stories, and even in stories, you suspect it is a lie. Here, you return as quietly as you left, stepping around piles of damp firewood, nodding to those you pass. No one meets your eyes for long. There are no children laughing, no old women singing, no one eager to hear what you have seen. There are only tired faces and hunched shoulders, everyone pretending to be busy with nothing. You squat down near the fire, letting the dampness seep into your bones. Your knees pop, loud enough for the woman sitting across from you to glance up, frown, and then go back to scraping the last bits of meat from a bone. She does not ask what you found because she already knows the answer. She does not care about your cold hands or your empty stomach because her own are just as cold and just as empty. You report what you have seen because it is expected. The elders listen without really listening, their eyes clouded with exhaustion and suspicion. You give your account, a few animal tracks, an old print in the mud, a tuft of hair, maybe human, maybe not. They nod, but you know they are only half hearing you, already rehearsing what they will say when something goes wrong. If nothing happens, you are paranoid. If something does, you missed it. Someone cracks a joke about the state of your clothes, filthy, torn, more patched than original. The laughter is hollow, brittle, an attempt to pretend that misery is funny if you share it. You pretend to laugh along because what else can you do? You remember the times you used to care about your appearance, the feel of clean clothes, the sound of real laughter, and you wonder if those memories are real or just dreams conjured up by hunger. Breakfast is a handful of dried berries and a piece of smoked meat so tough it could be used to patch a hole in your shelter. You chew until your jaw aches, swallowing each mouthful with the grim determination of a person who knows this is as good as it gets. Around you, others do the same, some not even bothering to look at what they are eating. Food is food. Flavor is for people with choices. You flex your hands in the warmth of the fire, such as it is. The smoke stings your eyes, and you blink back tears, hoping no one notices. Tears are for the weak, and the weak do not last long. Not here. The smoke is the only thing that moves freely in this place, curling up and away, escaping into the open sky. You envy it. Conversation in camp is always the same. The young ones ask when the next hunt will be. The old ones mutter about times when things were better, though you suspect they never really were. The hunters boast quietly about the rabbit they almost caught, the fish that almost took the bait, the deer that almost stumbled into their path. There is always an almost, always a story that ends with empty hands and a forced shrug. You take stock of your gear. Your knife is dull, the handle worn smooth by nervous fingers. Your bow creaks when you bend it, the string fraying in two places. Your quiver is nearly empty. You turn these facts over in your mind, weighing them as you would stones in your hand. You wonder what you will do when your knife finally snaps, when your last arrow splinters on a tree. No one will give you another. Everyone is waiting for something to break, hoping it is not themselves. The sun is up now, but it brings little warmth. The wind cuts through the camp, sending smoke into your eyes again, driving the smell of damp and desperation deeper into your skin. Somewhere, a baby cries, the sound thin and hopeless. You do not look up. There is nothing to see but more of the same struggle, fatigue, resignation. The day has barely begun, and already you are wishing it would end. You force yourself to eat another mouthful, knowing you will regret it if you do not. Hunger is patient, but it always wins in the end. Around you, the others finish their meager meals, tossing scraps to the dogs, if there are any, or saving them for later. There is never enough to go around. You rise, stretching your stiff legs, and glance at the sky. Gray clouds are gathering, promising rain or worse. You do not complain. Complaints are wasted breath. You gather your gear, such as it is, and prepare to go out again. The campfire smolders behind you, a fragile promise of warmth you know will not last. There is nothing here for you but duty and repetition. The others pretend not to notice when you leave, but you know they are counting on you, hoping you will see what they do not, that you will come back with news or meat or a miracle. You wish you could believe in miracles, but out here, miracles are just another word for survival, and survival is a matter of luck, not hope. You take one last look at the camp, at the faces turned away, at the fire that refuses to die. Then you step back into the trees, into the mud and the cold and the endless, thankless task that is your life. Because someone has to. Hunger is not a pang, but a companion. It wakes with you, follows you into the woods, hounds you back to camp, and gnaws at your bones when you try to sleep. There are days when it feels like you are made out of nothing but hunger. Skin stretched bite over emptiness, nerves wound into a single thread of need. People talk about hunger like it is a passing inconvenience, something you can ignore with enough will. They are lying, or they have never been truly hungry. The hunt is supposed to be a solution. It is not. The hunt is just another ritual in the long day of not enough. You do not stride into the forest with the confidence of a predator. You creep, shiver, and stumble, stomach rumbling loud enough to frighten away whatever unfortunate creature might still be hanging in these battered woods. The animals know you too. They have learned your scent, your sound, the ways you blunder through the brush. They are tired of you. They are smarter than you. You begin with the traps. Yesterday, you set them in places that looked promising: game trails, narrow gullies, the edge of a muddy pool where animals come to drink. You check each one, hope rising and falling with each step, each rustle in the grass. The first snare holds nothing but a clump of fur and a few drops of blood, some lucky rabbit wriggling free. The second is empty, the bait stolen by a clever crow or a hungry fox. The third, finally, has something: a small gray squirrel, limp and cold, its eyes open as if still surprised to find itself caught. You thank it quietly as you were taught, but it is hard to feel grateful for such a small meal. You tuck it into your pouch, already calculating how to stretch it into enough for 2 bites. Fishing is next. The river is mean and slow, swollen with mud, reluctant to give up its secrets. You carve a rough spear from a branch and stand at the water's edge, hoping your reflection does not scare the fish away. Your arms ache from holding still, your back stiffens from crouching. Once, long ago, you might have watched the play of light on the water, found some beauty in the patience of the task. Now you watch only for movement, any ripple, any shadow. After an hour, you have nothing but numb fingers and cold feet. The others will ask you if you saw any deer, any sign of the great herds that once moved through these lands like rolling thunder. You will shake your head and say nothing, because you do not want to be the one to remind them that the herds are gone. The deer, the elk, even the rabbits, most have moved on, or been hunted out, or learned that the scent of smoke and human sweat means death. Desperation makes you inventive. You dig in the soft ground for roots, scrape moss from stones, pick the last dried berries from brambles. Sometimes you find mushrooms, but you have learned the hard way not to trust every mushroom. Too many colors, too many shapes, too many ways to be fooled into dying slowly and painfully. Hunger teaches you caution, but caution tastes like nothing at all. You remember the old stories, the ones told around the fire, when there was still enough food to let people pretend that life was more than hunger. Stories of great hunters who could call the animals with a song, who could track a deer for days and always bring it down. You wonder where those hunters are now. Dead, probably, or hiding somewhere even you cannot find them. Maybe the animals remember their songs, and that is why they stay away. There is a moment every day when you think about giving up, not in a grand, tragic way. No declarations, no final speeches, just a quiet moment when you look at your empty hands, your hollow belly, and think, what if I just sat down and waited? Waited for something to change or for the hunger to go away. You never do. There is always one more trap to check, one more patch of earth to dig, one more hope that tomorrow might be different. You catch a frog, slimy and cold, and think about the first time you did this. You were a child then, and it seemed funny, daring. Now it is just one more way to fill the emptiness, one more thing to boil in a battered pot and pretend it is a feast. You skin it, clean it, toss the pieces into a scrap of cloth. Every part is precious, every mouthful matters. On the way back to camp, you pass a stand of wild onions. You dig them up with your fingers, dirt wedging under your nails, ignoring the ache in your joints. You have stopped noticing the little pains. They are always there. You have stopped noticing a lot of things. When you finally return, you divide your pitiful harvest: a squirrel, a frog, a handful of roots and onions. You set them by the fire, waiting your turn to cook, your turn to eat. Others glance at your bounty and say nothing. No one is surprised. No one is grateful. There is never enough, and everyone knows it. The food, when it is ready, tastes of smoke, earth, and desperation. You chew slowly, making each bite last, pretending you are not counting mouthfuls. You think about all the things you would eat if you could: roasted meat, fresh bread, sweet berries in handfuls. You try not to remember the taste of plenty because it only makes the hunger worse. Later, you lie back, staring at the low, smoky sky, feeling the food settle like stones in your belly. It is never enough. It is never close to enough, but it is something, and something is all you can hope for. You close your eyes, letting the day's disappointments wash over you. Tomorrow you will do it all again. Tomorrow you will wake up hungry and go out hunting, knowing that the forest will give only what it wants when it wants, and that you are at its mercy. You tell yourself that this is what it means to be alive. You tell yourself that you are grateful for even this much. You are almost convincing. You know before you see it that something is wrong. The forest feels different, quieter, sharper, as if all the normal sounds have been cut away and replaced with something you cannot quite name. Your hands sweat despite the cold, and your heart picks up its tired, anxious drumbeat. You try to convince yourself that it is nothing, that it is only hunger, exhaustion, nerves. But you do not believe yourself, and neither does the forest. The first clue is almost nothing: a snapped twig in a place where you know there was no wind last night. A patch of moss, bright green, torn away from a rock as if someone or something had slipped and grabbed at it for balance. You kneel to examine the mark, pressing your fingers into the cold earth. You want to believe it is an animal. You desperately want it to be an animal. You find more signs the deeper you go. Footprints pressed into the mud, the heel deeper than the toes. A person walking quickly, but not running. The prints are too fresh. No animal makes marks like these. The stride is long, sure, reckless. Whoever passed through here did not care about being followed, or did not know that you were here to notice. You should turn back. You should warn the camp. But curiosity is stronger than wisdom, and besides, you have nothing better to do. You move as quietly as you can, ears straining for any sound that does not belong: the snap of a branch, the mutter of voices, the scrape of metal on stone. Your body is a collection of aches and wounds, but you forget them now. Every sense sharpens to a point. Your eyes catch every flicker of shadow, every shift in the leaves. You crouch low, hiding behind a fallen log, heart hammering in your throat. There is a smell in the air, not animal, not fire, not the familiar stink of your own camp. It is the smell of strangers. You taste it on your tongue: sweat, unfamiliar smoke, the faint tang of something foreign, something dangerous. You remember the stories you have heard: raiders, slavers, desperate men wandering hungry through the woods. None of the stories end well. For a long moment, nothing happens. You crouch in the undergrowth, counting your own breaths, waiting for something to reveal itself. You wonder if you are being watched in return, if some other scout is lying just out of sight, weighing the same options, feeling the same fear. You hate the feeling. It is a reminder that you are prey as much as you are predator, that every time you step into the woods, you are betting your life on a handful of guesses. Finally, you see them. Three men, walking single file, heads down, moving fast, but not cautiously. They do not look around. They do not stop to listen. Their clothes are ragged, patched in unfamiliar ways. One carries a long stick, more spear than walking staff. Another has a bundle slung across his shoulder, maybe food, maybe something worse. The third is older, his beard tangled, his face hidden beneath a hood. They are not from your camp. They are not from any camp you know. You watch them pass, holding your breath. If they see you, if they even sense you, everything will change. You do not want to think about what will happen next. You do not want to imagine the violence, the blood, the running. You stay as still as you can, praying to whatever spirits might be listening that you will be invisible just this once. They keep moving, oblivious to your presence. You wait until the last of them has vanished between the trees, then count slowly to 100, just to be sure. Your legs are numb, your hands ache from gripping the cold wood of the log. When you finally stand, you are trembling, not from cold, but from the awful tension of being alive in a world that does not care if you live or die. You have a choice to make. Go back and warn the camp, or follow these strangers and see where they are going. Both choices are bad. Both are dangerous. If you go back, the camp may not believe you. If you follow, you may never come back at all. You hesitate, weighing the risks. You know what you should do. You should be responsible. Go back, raise the alarm, prepare for the worst. But you are tired of being responsible. You are tired of always doing the right thing and having nothing to show for it but more hunger and fear. So you follow. You keep to the shadows, moving as silently as you can. The men ahead leave an easy trail, broken branches, disturbed leaves, a faint line in the dirt where the spear drags behind. You watch the sky, judging how much daylight is left. Not enough. There is never enough. After what feels like hours, you hear them talking. The words are muffled, the language unfamiliar. You catch a few scraps, laughter, a curse, the sharp edge of an argument. They do not sound afraid. They sound hungry, angry, tired. You recognize those tones. You know them well. You watch from a distance as they stop and huddle together, sharing something between them. You see the flash of a knife, the quick movement of hands dividing a meal. You imagine what it would be like to be with them, to be part of a group where your survival does not depend entirely on your own mistakes. But you know better. You know that every group is just a collection of desperate people trying not to die, that trust is only another word for waiting to be betrayed. You mark their location, take note of the landmarks, the twisted tree, the fallen boulder, the stream that gurgles nearby. You do not get closer. You do not want to be noticed. You are not here to fight or to talk. You are here to observe, to survive. As the sun begins to set, you make your way back toward camp. You do not take the same path you came. You double back, erase your footprints, move in wide circles until you are sure you are not being followed. Your nerves are raw, your thoughts jumpy. Every noise makes you flinch. Every shadow is a threat. When you finally reach the edge of camp, you do not go in right away. You watch for a long time, making sure everything is as it was, that no strangers have found their way in behind you. You slip back into your old role, invisible, cautious, tired. You wonder if anyone will care about what you have seen. You wonder if it will matter. You do not tell anyone the full truth. You give them enough to be worried, but not enough to panic. You watch their faces as you speak, measuring their fear against your own. You are careful with your words. You know that news from the woods is always bad, and you do not want to be the one to make it worse. You sit by the fire that night, eating what little you have managed to find, thinking about the men in the forest, about the thin line between hunter and hunted, about how easy it is to become a ghost in your own life. You listen to the others talk, laugh, argue, and you realize that you are more alone than ever, even in the middle of the only home you have left. If you want to stay alive, you have to pay attention. That is the only rule that matters, more important than courage, more useful than luck. The elders call it wisdom, but to you it is just a tired habit. The reflex of someone who knows every mistake comes with a cost you cannot pay twice. So you gather information piece by piece, the way a starving animal picks through a garbage heap, knowing most of what you find will be useless, but unable to stop searching. You start with the obvious. The stranger's footprints are still fresh in your mind, but you check the edges of camp for new ones anyway. It would be so easy for someone to slip close while everyone else is distracted, staring into the fire, arguing over scraps, pretending that if they keep talking about the weather or the shape of the moon, nothing bad will happen. You have seen it before. You have learned that bad things never wait for permission. You crouch in the mud, examining the prints you left last night and the ones that do not match. You study the depth of each heel, the length of stride, the sharpness of the edges. You try to imagine the person who made them, tall or short, heavy or light, in a hurry or limping with an old injury. You wish you could ask questions and get answers, but the ground only tells you what it wants. The rest is guesswork and paranoia. Beyond the tracks, there are other clues. Scraps of foreign tobacco in the grass, a broken branch at shoulder height, the wood still fresh and pale where it snapped. A tuft of fur caught in the brambles, darker than any animal you know, stiff and oily to the touch. You sniff it, wrinkling your nose. It does not smell like any beast you would hunt for food. Maybe it is from a dog. Maybe it is from something worse. You remember stories about people who disguised their tracks with animal skins, who learned to move like wolves, who crept through the woods at night, wearing the masks of spirits. You do not believe in those stories, not really, but you know that fear is a tool, and anyone desperate enough can learn to use it. You wander the perimeter, eyes flicking from shadow to shadow. You listen to the wind, to the birds, to the uneasy silence that sometimes falls for no reason at all. You know that a flock of crows will go quiet when a person walks beneath their tree, that the sudden absence of bird song is as loud as a scream. You wish the others would notice these things. They do not. You wish you did not have to be the one to notice either. Inside the camp, you watch the faces of your own people. There are always signs if you look closely enough. The twitch of an eye, the tightening of a jaw, the way someone suddenly finds a reason to be somewhere else when you enter the circle. Everyone knows you are the scout. Everyone knows you see things before they do. Some resent you for it. Some are afraid no one thanks you. You ask quiet questions, testing the waters. Did anyone hear anything last night? Did anyone see a light in the trees? A flash of movement at the edge of the fire? You keep your voice even, casual, as if you are not already sure of the answers. Most people shake their heads, eyes darting away. A few nod, hesitantly, but cannot say what they saw. Maybe an animal, they mumble, maybe just the wind. No one wants to believe that trouble is coming. Belief makes things real. You check your own gear, making sure nothing is missing. You have heard stories of thieves in the night, of enemies who steal not to survive, but to wound, to remind you that you are never safe. Your knife is still there, dull but whole. Your bow is still yours, for now. You check the arrows, counting them twice, as if they might multiply when you are not looking. They never do. You watch the dogs, if there are any left. Animals notice what people do not. A dog will bristle at the scent of an enemy, or slink away from the place where someone once bled. You watch their ears, the set of their tails, the way they sniff at the ground. Tubaite. They are nervous, whining and pacing, but that could mean anything. Hunger, fear, memories of other camps, other fires. You wish you could ask them what they know. In the late afternoon, you circle the camp again, widening your path, searching for anything you missed. You find a mark on a tree, a shallow cut, almost invisible but fresh, not made by an animal, not natural, a sign perhaps. You touch it, feeling the rough bark beneath your fingers. It could mean anything. It could mean nothing. That is the problem with information. It is never complete, never certain, never enough. You wonder, not for the first time, what would happen if you stopped caring, if you closed your eyes to the signs, ignored the footprints, let someone else worry about the next disaster. Would anyone notice? Would anything change? Or would the world keep turning, indifferent to your absence? You suspect it would. You suspect the forest is full of people who stopped paying attention, whose bones are now hidden beneath moss and leaves. You return to the center of camp as the sun begins to set, feeling more tired than before. You share what you have found, cautiously, sparingly, not wanting to cause panic. Some listen, most do not. The elders nod as if you have told them the weather. The young ones pretend not to be scared. You sit by the dying fire, trying to remember a time when the world made sense. Information you have learned is only as useful as the people who are willing to act on it. You gather what you can, hold it close, and wait for someone to care. Until then, you are alone with your knowledge, burdened by every detail, every warning that nobody wants to hear. The sky darkens, and the camp settles into another uneasy night. You sharpen your knife by the firelight, eyes scanning the shadows, listening for the next sign, the next threat, the next piece of information that might, if you are lucky, keep you alive one more day. You always come back with bad news. Sometimes it is just a feeling, the twitch in your neck, the heaviness in your gut, the knowledge that something out there is watching, moving, changing. Sometimes it is real. Footprints in the mud, a snapped branch, a smell you cannot name, but nobody wants to hear it. Bad news is as unwelcome as hunger and just as inevitable. You walk into camp at dusk, shoulders hunched, head low, trying to make yourself smaller. The others look up, eyes shadowed, faces wary. They know you by now. The bearer of rumors, the collector of worries, the one who is never satisfied with everything is fine. If you were silent, perhaps they could sleep. Perhaps they could believe for a few hours that the world is not closing in. The fire spits and sighs, casting long, mean shadows across the ground. You stand just outside the circle, the place reserved for messengers and ghosts. Your hands shake a little, but you keep them still. You clear your throat. Someone glances your way, then quickly looks back at their feet. You wish you did not have to speak. You wish you could be just another body in the crowd, anonymous and safe. But scouts do not get to choose silence. You begin your report in the usual way, voice steady, eyes fixed on the dying flames. I found tracks, you say. The words feel heavy, slow, too big for your mouth. Not ours, fresh. There is a pause, and then the questions begin. Who? How many? Which direction? Did they see you? You answer each one as simply as you can, giving only what you know for certain. More than one set of prints, moving fast, not careful, carrying weapons. You do not add that you could smell their fear, could almost taste their hunger in the air. Someone mutters a curse, someone else spits into the fire. An elder asks you to repeat yourself, as if hoping the news will change. You oblige, knowing it will not. Bad news never gets better with repetition. It only grows heavier, a weight that drags at every word, at every silence that follows. There is a debate, as there always is. Some argue for moving the camp, packing up in the night, slipping away like animals before a storm. Others insist on staying, on fighting, on proving that this patch of mud and smoke is worth defending. You stand at the edge, listening, feeling the weight of every opinion, every fear. You know your role to be the shadow behind the argument, the reminder that danger is not a matter of choice. Sometimes someone tries to blame you. Maybe you led them here, a voice growls. Maybe you left a trail. You do not argue. You have heard it before. Suspicion is easier than action, and everyone is looking for someone to blame. You stare at the ground, clenching your fists, swallowing your pride. It does not matter what you say. They will believe what they want. The debate drags on, circling around the same tired points. The young ones want to run, the old ones want to stay. No one wants to admit they are afraid. You watch the faces around the fire, lines etched deep by worry, eyes darting to the shadows, hands tightening on knives and sticks. You wonder if this is how it always is, if every camp in every forest is full of people pretending they are not waiting for disaster. In the end, nothing changes. No decision is made. The camp will stay for now. The fire will burn a little longer. You are told to keep watch, to be the eyes and ears, while the others pretend to sleep. It is not a reward, it is a sentence. You accept it in silence, knowing that complaining will only make you more alone. You take your post at the edge of the camp, shivering in the cold. The night is thick and wet, filled with the sound of distant water, the occasional cry of some animal braver than you. You stare into the darkness, listening for footsteps, for the creak of a bow, for the voice that will end everything. Your eyes ache with tiredness, but you do not let them close. Not yet. You think about the others, those who believe you, those who do not. You think about the weight of bad news, about how it piles up inside you until there is no room for anything else. You wonder what it would be like to come back with good news, to say it is safe and have it be true. You cannot remember the last time you even thought that was possible. Hours pass. The fire burns low. The camp grows quiet, the arguments fading into uneasy dreams. You walk your slow, endless circle, watching, waiting, hoping that tonight the world will let you rest. You know it will not. Bad news is a shadow that never leaves. You carry it with you, wear it like another layer of dirt, another patch on your ragged clothes. You know you will bring it again tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. You are the scout. You are the harbinger. You are the voice nobody wants to hear. You wait for dawn, for the moment when you can move again, when you can pretend, for a little while, that you are just another person trying to survive. But even as the sky grows lighter, you know what the others will ask you first. Is it safe? And you know, before you answer, that the answer is always the same. No, it is not. You never really prepare for an attack. You pretend to, of course. You follow the motions, repeat the rituals, obey the orders. The elders talk about readiness, as if you could ever be ready for strangers in the night, for arrows in the dark, for the sudden chaos that follows the first scream. But everyone knows the truth. All you can do is wait and hope you are not the one who is too slow. After your warning, The camp moves with a kind of sluggish urgency. Nobody wants to believe in danger, but nobody wants to be blamed for ignoring it either. So they gather what little they have: dull knives, cracked bows, arrows with fletching made from whatever feathers could be scavenged after last winter. Someone finds a club, a branch, not even shaped, still sticky with sap. You watch the preparations and know, as you always do, that it is not enough. You move among them, checking the perimeter. You look for the weak spots in the camp. There are many. The shelters are half finished, thrown together in the hope that the wind will be merciful. The fire pit is a hole in the mud, barely giving off warmth. Every path in or out is marked by tracks, too many for anyone to keep straight. If you were the enemy, you would already know exactly where to attack. You try to help. You show the younger ones how to sharpen stakes, how to set traps that might catch a careless foot. You tie scraps of cord between trees at knee height, knowing it will not stop anyone determined, but hoping it might slow them, or at least make them curse your name. You dig shallow pits, cover them with branches, tell yourself that if nothing else, it will give you warning. You know, of course, that warning is just another word for more time to panic. The elders gather near the fire, arguing in low voices. Their plans are old, older than the scars on your hands, older than the camp itself. They talk about forming a circle, about keeping the women and children in the center, about holding their ground. Nobody talks about what happens if the center does not hold. Nobody says what comes after. You inventory the arrows. There are not enough. There are never enough. Some are splintered. Some are too short. Some have no points at all. Just sharpened sticks meant to hurt, not kill. You try to remember the last time you held a weapon that felt new, whole, trustworthy. You cannot. Maybe you never did. You check your own knife, running your thumb along the edge. It is dull, nicked from too many days cutting roots and scraping hides. You think about sharpening it, but there is no good stone, and you are tired. The others see you working and nod approvingly, as if your diligence will save them. You do not tell them that no amount of preparation will change what is coming. You walk the edge of the camp again, making yourself a target in case someone is watching. You listen to the wind, to the rustle of branches, to the distant, hollow silence that comes before disaster. You remember stories of heroes who stood watch until dawn, who saw the enemy before anyone else, who saved their people by being vigilant. You do not believe in those stories. Vigilance is just another name for insomnia. Someone asks if you think they will come tonight. You shrug. Maybe. The answer is always maybe. If you say yes, they will be afraid. If you say no, they will be angry when you are wrong. Maybe is safest. Maybe buys you a little peace, a little time. As the sun drops behind the trees, you feel the camp tighten. Everyone is quieter, faces turned to the fire, backs to the dark. Someone tries to sing, but the sound dies quickly. The children are restless, unable to sleep, eyes wide with questions nobody wants to answer. The elders mutter prayers. You envy them, their certainty, their belief in anything that promises protection. You eat quickly, barely tasting the food. It is cold, tough, a piece of last year's hope boiled into this year's disappointment. You chew and swallow, thinking about where you will hide if the attack comes. How many heartbeats you will have before the world turns upside down. You know every hiding place in the camp. You know which ones are death traps and which ones might, if you are lucky, keep you breathing until dawn. You check the traps one last time. Nothing. You reset them anyway, more out of habit than hope. You pace the camp, counting the shelters, the faces, the weapons. You listen for arguments. There are always arguments before an attack. People lashing out because they are afraid, because they need to blame someone for the fear in their bellies. Tonight is no different. As night falls, you crouch by the fire, staring into the coals. You try not to think about what is coming. You try not to remember the last time the camp was attacked, the shouting, the confusion, the blood. You try not to remember how it felt to run, to stumble, to leave someone behind because you had no choice. You sharpen a stick just in case. You tie your shoes tight just in case. You check the position of the moon, measure the shadows, memorize the feel of the ground beneath your hands. You tell yourself you are ready, but you know you are not. Nobody is ever ready. The night is long, and every sound is a threat. The fire burns low, the air thick with smoke and dread. You wait, eyes open, heart pounding, listening for the first sign of movement, the first scream, the first arrow in the dark. You wait because that is your job, because someone has to. And as you wait, you wonder if this is all there is. Preparation without hope, vigilance without reward, waiting for an attack that always comes, whether you are ready or not. Night in the camp is a fragile, flickering thing. You know, as everyone knows, that sleep is just a rehearsal for death. You huddle close to the dying fire, eyes half lidded, waiting for a peace that never comes. Around you, the others pretend to rest, twisting on their makeshift beds, turning away from the cold. Nobody truly sleeps, not tonight. You are supposed to be on watch, but you know it hardly matters. If the enemy comes, it will not be with a trumpet and a parade. It will be a shadow slipping through the trees, a whisper in the grass, a flicker at the corner of your eye. You listen for those sounds, the ones that do not belong. The quiet becomes a presence, pressing in on your eardrums, making your heartbeat feel like the loudest thing in the world. The wind rattles the branches above, and for a moment, you imagine footsteps. You freeze, every muscle tight, breath caught in your throat. But it is only the wind this time. You let out the air slowly, hating yourself for being afraid of nothing. You think, not for the first time, that one day you will ignore the wrong sound, relax at the wrong moment. One day you will be wrong, and it will be the last mistake you make. Your knife rests in your hand. It is too dull to be reassuring, but the weight of it is better than nothing. You flex your fingers, trying to bring life back into your numb hands. The cold seems worse at night, creeping up from the ground, settling in your bones. You envy the dead for their stillness, their lack of need. Around you, the camp is quiet. The children whimper in their sleep. The old ones snore softly, mouths slack and empty. You see a shape move by the fire and flinch, only to realize it is one of your own, coming back from the bushes, face drawn and pale. They nod at you, and you nod back. The unspoken agreement between two people who know that this night, like every night, is only borrowed time. A dog lifts its head, ears pricked. You tense again, feeling the hair rise on your arms. The dog growls, low and uncertain, but does not bark. You stare into the dark, eyes straining to see past the edge of the light. You think you see movement, maybe a branch swaying, maybe a shadow passing by. Your heart is pounding again, loud in your ears. You whisper for silence as if the forest will listen. The others begin to stir. The oldest man reaches for his club. A woman pulls her child closer, wrapping her arms tight. You hear the shuffle of feet, the faint clink of bone and wood as someone readies a bow. It is always like this. Nobody wants to move first. Nobody wants to believe that this is happening, but everyone is ready to run, to fight, to disappear into the trees if it comes to that. A scream shatters the night. You do not know whose voice it is. It could be anyone, could be your own, for all it matters. The camp explodes into motion, people stumbling to their feet, grabbing whatever they can use as a weapon, shouting at shadows. You rush to the edge of the camp, eyes wild, knife up, searching for the threat. You see nothing but confusion, shadows chasing shadows. A pile of firewood knocked over, sticks scattering across the mud. The dog barking now, teeth bared, fur standing up along its back. Someone cries out, a wordless, desperate sound. You scan the darkness, forcing yourself to slow your breathing, to listen past the panic. There, the crack of a branch, the flicker of movement just beyond the circle of light. You call out a warning. The others hesitate, caught between fear and hope. Maybe it is only an animal. Maybe it is nothing at all. But you know better. You know that this is how it starts. One moment of doubt, 1 second of hesitation, and everything can change. You hear an arrow whistle past your ear, lost in the dark. Someone shouts your name. You duck behind a tree, heart thudding, blood roaring in your head. You scan the edge of the camp, looking for the source. Nothing but the night, thick and impenetrable. The alarm is everywhere now. People running, shouting, clutching each other, fighting to stay alive. The old man swings his club at nothing, eyes wild with fear. The children wail, hidden under blankets. The fire flares up as someone throws on more wood, desperate for light, for something to push back the dark. You grit your teeth, scanning the chaos. You do not know what you are looking for, an enemy, a friend, a sign that it is over. All you find is more noise, more panic, more reminders that you are never really safe. You remember all the times you have been here before, all the nights spent waiting for an attack that finally came, and then, just as quickly as it began, the alarm fades. The enemy, if there was one, has melted away into the trees. The camp is left in ruins, scattered belongings, trampled earth, the acrid smell of fear. You count the heads, check the faces, listen to the stories. Everyone saw something, but nobody can agree on what. It could have been nothing. It could have been everything. You sit by the fire, knife still in your hand, listening to the ragged breathing of those around you. The night is far from over. You know you will not sleep. You will not rest. You will watch the darkness, waiting for the next alarm, the next mistake, the next brush with death. Because this is what it means to survive, to wait, to watch, to tremble in the night, knowing that the only thing between you and the end is a thin circle of fire and a little borrowed courage. You do not remember falling asleep, but you must have, because now you are awake again and everything has changed. The fire is a pile of dead coals, thin smoke rising in a feeble line. The night is still deep, but the panic has faded, leaving behind only exhaustion and a lingering sense of unreality. You blink the crust from your eyes and sit up, muscles stiff, stomach knotted. The world is colder than you remember. It always is after. Around you, the camp looks like the aftermath of a storm. Scattered belongings, overturned baskets, muddy footprints in every direction. Someone is sobbing quietly, hunched over a broken pot. Someone else is shouting, their voice cracked and raw, demanding to know what happened, why nobody did anything, why nobody listened. You ignore them. You have heard it all before. You move through the wreckage, cataloging the damage. It is a routine, like washing your face in the river or patching your moccasins with whatever scraps you can find. You count heads, check faces, you look for wounds, for missing people, for signs that the night was more than just a bad dream. You do not find any bodies, and you are relieved, but only a little. The real damage is quieter, harder to see. Someone throws a handful of dirt onto the dying fire, as if to punish it for failing to protect them. You almost laugh. The fire is only doing what it can. You know how that feels. You crouch to inspect a patch of blood near the edge of camp. Not much, but fresh. You touch it, rub it between your fingers, smell it. Human. You look for a trail, drag marks, a line in the dirt, a broken branch pointing the way. You find none. Whoever bled here moved on, or was moved. You add it to the list of things you must report. People come to you with their stories. They talk over each other, each one convinced they saw the truth. A shadow in the trees, a figure by the fire, an arrow that came from nowhere. Most of them are wrong. Some are lying. You listen anyway. Your job is not to believe, only to record, to remember. Later, when you are alone, you will try to make sense of it all. The elders gather again, voices low and urgent. You stand just outside their circle, waiting for them to ask for your opinion. They do not at first. They prefer to argue, to blame, to decide what should be done without ever saying who should do it. When they finally turn to you, you give your report. No sign of the attackers, no clear trail, no bodies, only blood, only fear. They nod, as if this is what they expected, as if anything else would be a surprise. The camp is quieter now. The children huddle together, eyes wide, silent tears tracking through the dirt on their cheeks. The adults move slowly, picking up what they can, setting broken things aside. Nobody jokes, nobody sings. There is only the sound of breathing, the occasional cough, the whisper of wind through the ruined shelters. You take inventory. There is less of everything, less food, fewer arrows, one less knife. Someone is missing a blanket. Someone else is missing hope. You try to remember when you last felt safe, when you last believed that a night could pass without disaster. You cannot. You walk the perimeter, as you always do. You check the traps, empty, as always. You look for fresh tracks, for any sign that the enemy might return. You find a piece of cloth snagged on a bush, dark with blood. You, you pocket it, a useless trophy, another reminder of failure. You wonder how much longer you can do this. Wake up every day to new losses, new holes in the circle, new ways to disappoint the people who depend on you. You wonder if anyone notices that you are breaking, little by little, with every attack, every accusation, every night spent staring into the dark. At dawn, the camp begins to move again, slow and heavy as old mud. Fires are rebuilt, wounds are bandaged, food is divided with even less ceremony than usual. Someone mutters about moving camp, about starting over somewhere new. Someone else shakes their head. There is nowhere left to go, they say, and you know they are right. You sit by the fire, rubbing your hands together, feeling the ache in your bones. The others avoid your gaze. You are the reminder of what they want to forget. You are the one who saw the enemy first, who brought the bad news, who could not prevent the attack. It is not fair, but fairness is as rare as safety here. As the sun climbs, you gather what little you have: a dull knife, a handful of arrows, a strip of dried meat. You tell yourself you are ready for whatever comes next, but you know you are lying. The truth is, you are just as scared as everyone else, just as tired, just as lost. The day will pass, as all days do. The wounds will heal, or they will not. The camp will survive, or it will not. You will go out again, searching for threats, searching for answers, searching for something you can never find. And when night falls, you will be back here by the fire, waiting for the next attack. Because this is your life now, after the attack, after the loss, after the hope, always after. When the camp finally goes quiet, when the worst of the chaos settles into silence, you know it is your turn again. After the shouting, the counting, the weeping, Someone always has to go look. Someone always has to find out what or who was left behind. Tonight, as so many times before, that someone is you. You move away from the fire, away from the circle of faces that look at you with a mix of relief and regret. You are the one who leaves because you can, because you must, because perhaps you are the one they can do without if things go wrong. It is a kind of trust, but not the kind that brings comfort. You begin with the blood. It is almost a routine. Find the stains in the mud, in the grass, on the torn bark of a tree. You kneel and study the trail, cold seeping into your knees. This is the sort of detail that nobody wants to know. You measure the width, the darkness, the direction it flows. You hope it is not someone you know, but out here, you always know them. Sometimes the trail is clear, a line of red drops leading away from camp into the trees. Other times, it vanishes, as if the earth itself swallowed the wounded. You search anyway. You are not allowed to hope for good news, but you are required to look. That is your job. That is why you still have a place among these people. You follow the path of broken branches, of trampled ferns. You mark the places where a hand reached out and grabbed for a trunk, a bush, anything solid. The night is still thick, your breath a visible cloud in the cold air. Every sound is louder out here, the snap of a twig beneath your foot, the rustle of your clothes, the thud of your own heartbeat. You stop often, crouching, listening. You hear nothing that does not belong. No voices, no pleading, no footsteps ahead. Only the wind and the ghosts of those not yet found. Sometimes you find more than you want to see. A scrap of clothing, torn and muddy, caught on a thorn. A shoe, much too small for any adult, half buried in the loam. You pick it up, turn it over in your hand, and wonder how far its owner managed to run. You force yourself to keep moving. There are things worse than finding a body. Not finding anything at all is one of them. Once, years ago, you found a child alive, curled up beneath a bush, shivering and silent. That memory haunts you, not because it was rare, but because it never happened again. Most of the time, the lost are simply lost. The taken are simply gone. The forest keeps its secrets, and you are left with the duty of carrying the story back to camp. Tonight, you find a trail that ends at the river. The muddy bank is gouged with heel marks, deep and ragged. The water is fast, cold, dark. You kneel, searching for any sign that someone crossed. On the far side, the brush is undisturbed. You know what that means. The river is a wall, a grave, a border you are not allowed to cross. You whisper a promise you know you cannot keep and turn back, hands cold and empty. You circle wide, searching for other trails, other clues. Sometimes you find signs of a struggle, muddy handprints, blood smeared on a rock, a single arrow buried deep in the trunk of a tree. You pull it free, wiping it clean, adding it to your dwindling supply. It is a small victory, but it does not feel like one. As the sky begins to pale, you move farther from camp, knowing that every step you take is one more step into danger. The rules are simple. Do not get lost. Do not get caught. Do not become the next one the others have to look for. You repeat these rules like a prayer, though you have little faith left in prayers. You find nothing more. No voices, no survivors, no taken. Only the empty silence of the forest, broken only by your own footsteps and the distant, mocking call of a bird. You feel a strange relief. You feel a heavier disappointment. You turn back, retracing your steps, careful not to leave more marks than you must. By the time you return, the camp is waking again, the faces pale and hollow in the morning light. You tell them what you found, enough to satisfy, not enough to give hope. They nod, some cry, some curse. You are not thanked, you are not blamed. You are simply the messenger, the one who walked out and came back, which is all anyone expects of you anymore. You sit by the fire, listening to the slow, miserable litany of loss. Who is gone? Who is wounded? What was taken? The elders make plans, as if plans matter. The young ones ask questions you cannot answer. The old ones look at you with a sadness deeper than the river. You stare at your hands, at the dirt beneath your nails, at the blood you could not wash away. You tell yourself that next time you will find someone, save someone, bring someone home. You do not believe yourself, but you say it anyway. There is no rest for you now. You eat quickly, if there is anything to eat, and prepare to go out again. Someone must hunt. Someone must scout. Someone must search. The world does not care that you are tired, that you are grieving, that you are already half gone yourself. You rise, shoulders heavy, and step back into the woods, back into the search, back into the life that has become nothing but looking for what you have lost. Because that is what a scout does. Because that is what is left. There is always talk of moving. It begins as a whisper, a nervous joke traded over the last scraps of breakfast. Maybe it is time to try the other side of the river, someone says, or at least the wind would be different over there. But nobody laughs, and everyone knows what is coming. One attack is a tragedy, two is a warning, three, and the ground itself feels cursed, and no one wants to be the last fool left holding a broken spear. You do not decide when to move. The elders do that, after hours of muttering, weighing the ruins of hope against the risk of staying put. You listen to their arguments. Some say the enemy will tire. Some say they are waiting for the next night. Some claim it is the forest itself that wants you gone. You are asked for your opinion, but it does not matter. The real answer is that it does not matter where you go. The misery will follow. Still, when the decision is made, everything becomes urgent. The camp erupts into hurried motion, as if everyone suddenly remembered that time is a predator. Blankets are bundled, food scraped into old pouches, every battered tool and broken weapon counted as precious. You pack lightly, whatever you can carry on your back, whatever will not slow you down. Anything else is abandoned. a gift to whoever comes next, friend or foe. You take one last look at the fire pit, blackened and half filled with ash. There is no ceremony, no final prayer. Someone stamps out the last ember with a heel, and that is the only goodbye this place will get. You wonder how many times this spot has been left behind, how many layers of ash and grief lie buried under the mud. As you set out, you take your place at the front. You walk the narrow, overgrown trail, the others strung out behind you in a shuffling line. The air is heavy, thick with the smell of wet leaves and old fear. The ground is slick beneath your feet, treacherous with roots and hidden holes. You step carefully, not for your own sake, but for those who follow. Every stumble behind you is a small curse, every sharp cry a reminder that you are leading not just bodies, but hopes, doubts, everything left that matters. You try to choose the safest path, though you know there is no such thing. The forest offers nothing but obstacles, dense undergrowth, thorny patches, the ever present threat of being seen or heard by whoever might be lurking just out of sight. You pause at every bend, every fork, scanning for fresh tracks, listening for sounds that do not belong. Most of the time, there is only the creak of the wind and the soft whimpering of the youngest. Sometimes there is something else, a silence too deep, a smell that makes your skin crawl. You keep moving. The elders urge you to hurry. We are too exposed, they say, as if you needed the reminder. You force the pace, though it means more tripping, more bruises, more muffled complaints. There is no time to rest, no time to grieve for the things left behind. Only the urgency of distance, the constant push to be somewhere else, anywhere else, before the next disaster finds you. The sun is a gray smear behind the clouds, offering no warmth, no sense of progress. Hours blur together, marked only by the need to stop for water, to catch your breath, to let the old and the wounded collapse against tree trunks for a moment. You want to comfort them, to promise that things will get better once you reach the new camp. But you do not believe it, and neither do they. You pass familiar landmarks. The hollow tree where you once found a hidden cache of acorns. The rocky outcrop that serves as a natural lookout. The muddy crossing where you once lost a shoe and almost your life. Each one is a reminder that you have been running in circles for years, that the map in your head is made not of places, but of memories of leaving. The little ones ask, how much farther? The answer is always the same. Just a little farther. You tell them what you wish someone would tell you, that there is a good place ahead, a safe place, a place where the sun will shine and the food will be enough and the nights will be quiet. You do not tell them the truth, that every place becomes a memory of hunger and fear in the end. As darkness falls, you finally choose a new spot. It is no better than the last, just another patch of ground, just another place to start over. The others collapse around you, unrolling blankets, building a new fire, trying to pretend that they are home. The children cling to their mothers, the elders sit apart, staring into the gloom. You take another circuit around the perimeter, checking for signs that you were followed. The forest is quiet for now. You sit by the new fire, exhausted, bones aching, eyes burning with smoke. Someone tries to joke about the journey, how you are all just wanderers, how maybe the next place will finally be the place. The laughter is brittle, quickly fading. You look back into the darkness, into the woods you just crossed. You know that sooner or later you will have to move again. You know that the world is shrinking, that each journey leaves a little less behind, takes a little more from what remains. But for tonight, you are here. You are not safe, but you are not moving. That is all anyone can ask. You stare at the new fire, listen to the others settle in, and try to remember the feeling of arriving instead of leaving. You try to believe that somewhere there is a place where you can stop running. But in the life of a scout, every arrival is just the beginning of the next escape. You wake up feeling older than you are. The new camp is barely a day old, but the aches in your bones make it seem like a lifetime. You roll over, expecting a brief reprieve from pain, but it only shifts from hip to shoulder, from shoulder to neck. You try to ignore it. Everyone in camp wakes up hurting, especially those who have survived more than one escape. Illness is everywhere, like a fog no wind will ever clear. Someone is always coughing, hacking up blood or bile, muffling the sound with a blanket, pretending it is just the cold. You know better. You have watched strong men become shadows in a week. You have seen children fall asleep with fever and never wake up again. You tell yourself you are used to it. You tell yourself it will not happen to you. You limp to the edge of camp, knees swollen, one ankle throbbing from a fall you took during yesterday's forced march. It was nothing at the time, just a misstep, a twist, a sharp pain quickly hidden. Now, it is a constant reminder that you are not invincible. You squat, massaging the joint, feeling the warmth of inflammation beneath your skin. There is nothing to do but keep moving. Stopping is not an option. The others come to you with their wounds. You are not a healer, but you are the scout, and that makes you something between a guide and a magician. A woman shows you a swollen hand, the skin stretched and shiny, pus seeping from a cut she got while butchering the last miserable catch. You wrap it with dirty cloth, tie it off with a strip from your own shirt, tell her it will be fine. You know you are lying, but you say it anyway. Children scratch at lice and fleas, digging bloody furrows into their scalps and necks. Their mothers cut their hair with knives, burn the clippings in the fire, curse the insects, but never win. An elder has a cough that will not leave. You offer him a piece of willow bark to chew. He spits it out, calls you a fool, tells you the only cure is rain that does not come and food that does not exist. Your own wounds are small but many, scrapes from thorns, a raw patch on your heel where your moccasin wore through again, a bruise on your ribs from where you fell asleep too close to a tree root. There is always a new pain to distract you from the old ones. Sometimes you dream of bathing in a hot spring, letting the water pull the misery from your muscles. You always wake up colder. In the evenings, you gather herbs if you can. There are roots that help with pain, leaves that lower fever, bark that slows the bleeding. None of them are magic. Sometimes they help, sometimes they do nothing, sometimes they make things worse. But hope is a kind of medicine, and people will swallow anything if it comes with a promise. Infections spread faster than stories. A single scratch becomes a swollen limb in a day, a fever in two. You have seen wounds turn black, seen flesh rot and peel away, seen a body shrink around its own bones. When that happens, there is nothing to be done but move the sick away from the rest, give them water if you can spare it, and wait. You have done it before, you will do it again. The forest is not kind to the weak. If you cannot walk, you are left behind. If you cannot feed yourself, you go hungry. If you cannot hide, you are found. It is the way of things, and everyone knows it. Sometimes, in the night, you hear someone whispering prayers for the sick, begging for a mercy that never comes. Sometimes you whisper your own, just in case. You notice the small things first, the tremor in your hands when you reach for your knife, the strange taste in your mouth when you swallow, the red streak crawling up your arm from a cut you forgot to clean. You watch your friends for signs of weakness, hoping they are not watching you for the same reasons. You remember when illness was a surprise, when a fever was a story to be told later, when a wound was a lesson and not a sentence. Now you expect it. You prepare for it, carrying extra strips of cloth, saving the last bit of clean water for when someone cannot swallow anything else. There are days when you wonder how much more your body can take. You are not old, not by the counting of years, but you feel as brittle as a bone left too long in the sun. You patch yourself up with spit and stubbornness, tie off wounds, grind herbs, and promise yourself you will not die from something so small, so stupid, so ordinary. But you know the truth. Out here, in the mud and the cold and the endless dark, it is never the dramatic injuries that kill you. It is the slow ones, the quiet ones, the ones that do not look like death until you are already halfway gone. And so you carry on, dragging your battered body through another day, patching up the others as best you can, counting every breath, every step, every hour survived as a small, bitter victory. Because out here, survival is nothing but a long list of injuries you refuse to let finish you. You would think that nobody in their right mind would want your job. Yet each season, there are always a few children watching you from the corner of the camp, following your steps, imitating the way you squat to read a track or tie a knot, asking questions with that endless, cruel optimism only the young possess. They want to know what it means to be a scout. They want to be like you. You try to scare them off. It is a tradition as much as a kindness. The first lesson you give is not about finding food or spotting danger. It is about disappointment, about letting go of the dream that the world is waiting for someone to conquer it. You tell them about the hunger, the blisters, the nights spent shivering in the rain. You tell them about the wounds that will not heal, about the friends you lost, about the times you wished you could simply disappear. Some laugh, thinking you are joking. Some stare, eyes wide, wondering if it could really be that bad. You make a game of it. Who can find the worst place to sleep, you ask, and they scatter into the brush, returning with tales of sharp rocks, cold puddles, angry ants. You let them think it is a competition, but you know the truth. Someday there will be no choice, and they will sleep where they fall. You hope that day never comes for them, but you have learned not to hope too much. You teach them the practical things because you must. How to read tracks, the difference between a rabbit and a fox, a deer and a desperate man, how to tell fresh blood from old, how to move without being seen, how to listen for the silence that means danger is close. You teach them how to make a snare, though you warn them that snares are just as likely to catch your own foot as a rabbit's. You show them how to hide a fire so the smoke will not give you away. You tell them that most nights the best thing you can do is disappear. They want to hear stories of adventure. You give them stories of survival, the night you hid in a hollow log while raiders passed by, so close you could smell their sweat and fear. The day you found yourself halfway up a tree with a bear climbing after you, your heart pounding so loud you were sure the whole forest could hear. They listen, some fascinated, some horrified. You watch their faces, trying to decide which ones will last and which will break. The bravest ask about killing. They want to know if you have ever fought an enemy, if you have ever taken a life. You tell them the truth, or at least part of it. Sometimes you do what you must to survive. You do not tell them about the nights you lie awake, staring at the darkness, replaying every scream, every desperate struggle. You do not tell them how the faces of the dead linger longer than any friends. That lesson comes later, if it comes at all. Sometimes you wish you could tell them to run, to hide, to find a safer place in the world. But there are no safe places left. You cannot protect them, not really. All you can do is show them how to last a little longer, how to hurt a little less. You teach them how to care for wounds, how to recognize the signs of fever, how to use the few healing herbs you know. You show them how to ration food, how to go without, how to tell the difference between hunger that will pass and hunger that will kill. You notice the way they watch you, waiting for approval, hoping to be chosen for some secret task. You remember when you looked at your own elders that way. You wonder if you disappointed them as much as you disappoint yourself. You tell the children, the only thing you get for being a scout is the chance to do it again tomorrow. Some look dismayed, but a few nod, understanding more than you wish they did. One night, a boy follows you out to the edge of the camp. He asks, "Why do you do it if you hate it so much?" You think about lying, but the words catch in your throat. Because someone has to, you finally say. and because I have not learned how to stop. He considers this, then sits beside you, silent and serious. For a long time, you listen together to the night sounds, the wind, the distant call of an owl, the low grumble of someone snoring by the fire. You wonder what kind of scout he will be, what kind of misery he will inherit, what parts of himself he will lose before he learns what the job really is. You find yourself wishing, against all logic, that maybe he will be the one who figures out how to stop. But you know how the story ends. The young always want to prove themselves. They want to walk in your footsteps, not knowing how much those footsteps cost. You teach them anyway, because that is what the old do. You pass on what you know, hoping that the lessons will be enough, even when you know they will not be. And so you keep teaching, one more thankless duty, one more burden to carry, as the world grows a little older, a little sadder every day. Nobody wants to talk about what happens when a scout catches someone alive. There is always an awkward silence, a shifting of eyes, a hope that the question will drift away like smoke. It never does. Sooner or later, the camp ends up with a prisoner, someone caught lurking too close, or left behind after an attack, or simply unlucky enough to stumble into your snares. And when that happens, all eyes turn to you. You are not chosen because you are cruel, though some might whisper that you have learned to be. You are chosen because you know how to listen, how to ask the right questions, how to recognize a lie. It is not a talent you wanted, but like everything else in your life, it is a skill that grew out of necessity. Hunger teaches you to take what you can, and fear teaches you to be thorough. The prisoner sits at the edge of the firelight, wrists bound with rawhide, head bowed. Sometimes they are young and trembling, sometimes old and defiant, sometimes silent with that peculiar calm that comes from knowing your fate is already sealed. The others gather in a loose ring, pretending not to watch, waiting for the drama to unfold. You begin with kindness, or at least the closest thing you can manage. You offer water, maybe a bite of food if there is any to spare. You speak softly, calmly, letting them know that pain is not the first tool in your kit. Sometimes this is enough. Hunger and fear loosen tongues more easily than knives ever could. You ask simple questions: who they are, where they came from, why they were lurking near your camp. The answers are never simple. Most prisoners lie, at least at first. They tell stories of being lost, of searching for family, of being driven by hunger. You listen, nodding, weighing each word. You watch for the way their eyes dart, the twitch in their fingers, the quiver in their voice. Sometimes you catch a truth wrapped in a lie. Sometimes you catch nothing at all. You know better than to expect honesty. When kindness fails, the others grow impatient. Someone mutters about using force, about making an example, about what happened the last time mercy was tried. You hold up a hand. You remind them that a broken prisoner is no use to anyone. That information, even if wrung out by fear, is slippery and unreliable. That cruelty is always remembered, and sometimes repaid. Still, there are moments when you are forced to be hard. You threaten, you posture, you let them see the knife, dull but heavy, stained with the business of your life. You raise your voice, snap your questions, let anger show. Sometimes you have to hit, not because you want to, but because the others are watching, and mercy is a luxury nobody here can afford. You know, as they do, that there is no good outcome. If the prisoner talks, you learn about enemy numbers, weapons, plans. You confirm your fears or find new ones. If they do not, you keep them tied, keep them hungry, until the elders decide what to do next. Sometimes the decision is exile, a blindfolded walk into the trees with a promise never to return. Sometimes it is death, quick or slow, decided with a nod and averted eyes. You are always the last to leave the fire. You untie the prisoner, or you do not. You say the words that send them away, or you do not. Either way, their story clings to you, a cold weight that sleep will not lift. You wonder if the information you gathered was worth the cost. You wonder how many more times you will have to do this before you forget how to care. The camp moves on, as it always does. The others talk about what was learned, about the risk that still lingers, about how you are necessary, how someone has to do the ugly work. You nod and listen, but you know that someone always means you. You do not remember when you stopped flinching, when the sound of pleading stopped making your hands shake. You only know that it did. Sometimes you remember faces. Sometimes, in the smoke and the dark, you hear the prisoners' voices in your dreams, whispering the lies you believed, the truths you missed, the things you wish you had not learned. You wake up cold, heart racing, and reach for your knife before you remember where you are. You teach the young ones that interrogation is just another skill, like tracking or hunting. You show them how to look for signs of weakness, how to coax information, how to hide their own doubts. You warn them, quietly, that the hardest part is not the questioning, but the living with the answers. When the next prisoner comes, the cycle begins again. The camp gathers, the questions are asked, the answers are measured. You play your part because it is the only part you know. Mercy, cruelty, patience, fear, they all blur together in the firelight, leaving you wondering which side of the line you stand on. And at the end of it all, you are left with the same old certainty that being a scout means doing what must be done and carrying the weight of it alone. The first frost arrives like an accusation. One morning, you wake and the world is white and sharp, your breath curling in the thin air, your blanket crusted with rime. The others grumble and curse, but you expected this. The cold always comes before you are ready. You take it as a reminder that the earth does not care how hard you work or how much you hope. The seasons move on, dragging you with them. Shivering and desperate, you move stiffly through the camp, limbs heavy, skin raw, where the wind has found every crack in your clothes. You are not the only one. Faces are pinched, hands wrapped in layers of rags, eyes narrowed against the biting wind. Children whimper in their sleep, huddled together like puppies. The elders sit close to the fire, shoulders hunched, silent and watchful. There is less talk now, less laughter, as if everyone is saving their voices for something important that never comes. Food is scarcer than ever. The forest, which once teased you with berries and the rare flash of an animal, is barren now. The traps come up empty. The river moves slow and black under a thin skin of ice. Sometimes you manage a skinny bird or a handful of nuts, but it is not enough. You spend your days searching for anything edible, roots, bark, even bugs if you are lucky. You chew them slowly, pretending it is a feast, pretending you do not taste bitterness and rot. Your fingers split and bleed. The skin on your heels cracks. You do not bother to patch your moccasins anymore. The leather is too thin, the thread too short. You tie strips of bark around your feet and hope you will not freeze before you find something useful to do. Every step is a reminder that you are one mistake away from losing a toe or a foot or more. The wind seems to find you wherever you hide. It snakes through the holes in the shelters, lifts the edges of your clothes, whispers in your ears. At night, it sings a lullaby of misery, rattling branches, carrying the promise of snow. You press close to the fire, but the warmth never lasts. The smoke stings your eyes, coats your lungs, but it is better than the cold that waits beyond the flames. Every morning you go out. There is no rest, no excuse, no escape. The others watch you leave, eyes hollow, as if you might return with summer in your pockets. You do not bother to smile or promise anything. You know better. You walk the frozen ground, marking the places where the snow is disturbed, where an animal might have passed. You look for prints, for droppings, for any sign that something alive still moves in this dying world. Sometimes you find only your own tracks from yesterday. Sometimes, if you are lucky, you find a trail worth following, a hare thin and ragged, its footprints barely denting the snow. You stalk it for hours, knees aching, fingers numb, heart pounding in your chest. Most days, you lose it in the brush, or it simply disappears, leaving you with nothing but the echo of its fear. You understand that fear. It is the same fear that keeps you moving, day after day, even when you have forgotten what hope feels like. The camp shrinks. Every week, someone disappears. A child who wandered too far, an elder who could not keep up, a friend who went out and never came back. No one asks where they went. No one talks about what happens to the lost. The silence is a kindness, a way of pretending that tomorrow might be better. You do not believe it, but you play along. Sometimes in the evenings, the young ones ask you about warmer times. Will the sun come back? They say. Will there be berries again? You tell them yes, but your voice is as thin as the light at dusk. You remember summers so bright and long they seemed impossible to lose. Now, Those memories are like old wounds, tender, useless, best left alone. You teach the others how to keep moving, how to layer bark and moss for warmth, how to find water even when the streams are frozen. You show them how to breathe through their hands, how to share body heat, how to hide from the wind. Some listen, most are too tired. You do not blame them. Survival is a skill, but exhaustion is a law. The nights stretch longer. The stars are sharp and cold above you, the moon a silent witness to your suffering. You listen to the sounds of the camp, coughing, shivering, the soft mutter of prayers to gods who have long since turned away. You sharpen your knife by the fire, more out of habit than hope. The blade is thin as a lie, but you keep it close. You have learned to trust only what you can hold in your own frozen hands. When you sleep, you dream of fire, of warmth, of the sun on your face. You wake up colder than before, and so you face another day of cold, another day of hunger, another day of pretending that you are not losing more than you are keeping. Autumn gives way to winter, and you count your losses like beads on a string, each one a little heavier than the last. Out here, the cold is not just the weather, it is a way of life, a slow grinding down of hope, a reminder that even the strongest must eventually surrender to something that cannot be fought or outrun. But you go out anyway, because someone has to. You learn to stop counting the losses after a while. At first, every absence is a wound, a gap in the circle by the fire, an empty space in the sleeping shelter, a voice missing from the quiet conversations in the dark. You count them, the ones who vanished on the trail, the ones who slipped away in the night, the ones whose bodies you buried quickly and quietly, hoping the ground would not freeze before you finished. Loss becomes a part of the routine, a shadow you carry with you. You stop waiting for it to pass. You stop thinking that grief is something to get through, something that ends. Out here, grief is a way of living, another blanket to pull over your head when the cold and the hunger and the fear become too much to bear. It settles into your bones, heavy and familiar, a dull ache that never quite leaves. Sometimes you remember the people you have lost, but the memories blur at the edges. The face of a brother, sharp with laughter, the smell of a lover's hair, warm and sweet on a rare spring night, the sound of your mother's voice telling you to be careful, to come home before dark. They are all ghosts now, soft, insistent, inescapable. You talk to them sometimes when you are sure no one is listening. You tell them what you have seen, what you have done, what you have lost since they left. You hope, absurdly, that they can hear you. It is easier than talking to the living. The elders say that it is important to remember that the dead are only truly lost when their names are forgotten. But you know the truth, names fade faster than scars. The little ones ask about the people who are gone, and you tell them stories, funny stories, hopeful stories, lies, and half truths. You do not tell them how the world shrinks with every loss, how you feel yourself becoming smaller, more invisible with each passing season. One day, You realize you are the last of your family. The thought is not a shock, but a confirmation of something you have been feeling for a long time. You carry it quietly, not sharing it with the others, not letting it show on your face. You keep moving because that is what you do. The fire needs tending, the traps need checking, the children need teaching. Your grief is as invisible as your footprints in the snow. You see grief in others too. The mother whose arms are always empty now, the old man who stares at the fire for hours, lips moving in silent prayer, the friend who sits by the river, watching the water flow away and pretending it will bring someone back. There are fewer arguments now, fewer jokes. Even the children play less, their laughter subdued, as if they know that joy is a kind of theft. Sometimes you want to scream. You want to rage against the sky, against the river, against the endless hungry forest. You want to demand an answer. Why these people? Why now? Why always? But you know there is no answer, only the silence that follows every question, only the cold that seeps into every hope. The world does not care about your loss. The world does not mourn with you. The world moves on, indifferent, swallowing up your dead and offering nothing in return. The wind erases the graves. The snow buries the footprints. The rain washes away the names. You become a little more silent, a little more careful, a little more convinced that the only thing worth saving is what you can carry on your own back. There are days when you wonder what it would be like to stop caring, to let the grief slip away, to become as hard as the stones beneath your feet. But you know that would be another kind of death, a surrender that comes long before your body gives out. You cling to your pain, stubborn and loyal, because it is all you have left of those you love. At night, you sit by the dying fire and think of the ones you lost. You watch the embers fade, remembering the warmth you once felt, the safety that is now only a story you tell yourself to get through another cold night. You tell yourself that you will keep moving, that you will keep remembering, that you will not let the world erase what little you have left. But deep down, you know the truth. Out here, loss is not a lesson or a burden or a punishment. It is simply the price you pay for being alive, for caring, for loving in a world that takes everything and leaves nothing behind. You close your eyes and whisper their names, hoping that for one brief moment the world will listen. But the world is silent, and the only answer is the wind. You think sometimes about growing old, about living long enough to tell your own stories by the fire, to pass on the lessons you have earned with your scars. But out here, old age is a rumor, a joke told in the dark by people who know better. Most scouts do not make it that far. If you survive, it is not because of strength or wisdom, but because the world has overlooked you just for a little while longer. There are a few old ones in camp, bent and brittle, their eyes foggy, their hands twisted with pain. They sit close to the flames, wrapped in every scrap of cloth the camp can spare, blinking slowly at the world as if surprised it has not yet finished with them. You watch them sometimes, wondering how they did it. you never ask. Some things are better left a mystery, a superstition, a hope you keep hidden from yourself. Your body is already older than you are. Your knees creak, your back aches, your hands are stiff and numb every morning. You walk with a limp some days, a shuffling rhythm that matches the old men more than the children. Each new scar adds a year to your life, each injury a reminder that survival is not the same as living. There are no ceremonies for getting older here. No one marks your birthdays. No one counts the years. Time is measured in losses, in seasons survived, in the slow shrinking of the circle around the fire. You forget how old you are. You forget how old anyone is. You forget what it means to plan for a future you might never see. The elders talk sometimes about the past, how things used to be when the world was kinder, when food was plentiful, when danger was just a story told to keep children from wandering too far. You try to listen, but their words are heavy with regret, thick with longing for a time that might never have existed. The children roll their eyes and drift away. Even the wind sounds impatient. If you are unlucky enough to live long, you find yourself fading from the center of things. Your hearing dulls, your eyesight blurs, your hands shake when you try to string a bow. The others start to look through you, to talk around you, to ask someone else for advice. You tell yourself you do not mind, that rest is a kind of reward, but you know the truth. You have become a burden. Every meal you eat is a meal not eaten by someone younger, someone stronger, someone who might still matter. Sometimes you try to offer wisdom. You tell stories about the time you outwitted a raiding party or found a hidden spring just as thirst threatened to finish you off. The young ones listen politely, then drift back to their own conversations, their own worries. They do not want your stories. They do not want to become you. If you are lucky, you keep your mind. If you are less lucky, you start to lose it, to wander in circles, muttering to yourself, mixing up the past and the present. People bring you food when there is extra. They tuck you in at night when they remember. You become something between a mascot and a ghost, a cautionary tale, a warning, a fading memory. You have seen others grow old. Sometimes they wander off into the woods one morning and do not return. Sometimes they die quietly in their sleep, slipping away before dawn, leaving behind only a dent in the blankets and a handful of belongings no one really wants. Sometimes they last and last, surviving everyone else until they are the last witness to a story nobody cares to hear. You wonder what it would be like to be remembered, to have someone sit at your side and ask for your stories, your secrets, your regrets. You wonder what it would be like to matter one last time. But you know the truth. The world does not stop for the old, and it certainly does not stop for you. You sit by the fire, chewing tough meat, staring at the flames, waiting for something to happen, waiting for someone to notice that you are still here, still alive, still counting the days as if it means something, but no one does. The camp is too busy surviving, too busy mourning, too busy moving on to spare much thought for those who linger. If you make it to old age, you learn that survival is not victory. It is endurance. It is persistence. It is the slow erasure of everything that once made you proud or hopeful or strong. It is sitting in the cold, telling yourself that this is enough, that you did what you could, that your life mattered, even if no one remembers it. And so you grow old the only way you can, quietly, invisibly, already half forgotten by the world that never had time for you in the first place. In the end, it is not the cold or the hunger or the wounds that erase you. It is the shortness of memory, the quiet, relentless way the world forgets. You disappear not in a blaze of glory, not with a heroic tale, but with a fading echo, a name slipping from the tongues of those who once needed you. You become a ghost in the stories around the fire, a lesson buried beneath new scars, a gap that no one quite remembers how to fill. After you are gone, there is no mourning, not really. There are tasks to do, mouths to feed, fires to keep burning. The camp moves on as it always has. The empty space where you once sat quickly filled by someone younger, hungrier, less worn down by disappointment. The old brittle shell of your shelter is picked over for scraps of leather or a sharp stone. Nothing is wasted, not even the remnants of your life. People remember you for a season, maybe two. A child might ask, "Where is the scout?" And someone will shrug, gesture towards the woods, say, "Gone," as if that explains everything. No one repeats your warnings, your hard won lessons about silence and patience, about fear and humility. These are replaced by new arguments, new routines, the latest set of rules written in the mud by feet that barely remember where they are going. Sometimes, on a particularly hard day, when the fire burns low and the wind cuts through the camp with its sharp, icy teeth, someone might mention your name softly, in the way people mention storms that passed long ago. He always said, "If you hear nothing, be more afraid than when you hear something," someone might recall. But already the tone is skeptical, the story fraying at the edges. The lesson becomes a joke, a superstition, something for the young to roll their eyes at. You watch this in your mind, even as you fade from the world. You imagine the circle of faces growing dim, the voices turning away. You have become what you always feared, a cautionary tale without a moral, a shadow that lingers only in the places where no one wants to look. Time is not gentle with the forgotten. The world fills your absence with new troubles, new scouts. Soon there is a boy or girl, restless, eager, naive, who wants to take your place, who imagines that being a scout is a matter of luck or cleverness, not of loneliness and slow ruin. They ask the old questions. They make the same mistakes, and those who are older only shake their heads, knowing that the lesson cannot be taught, only learned. You wonder sometimes what would be left if anyone truly remembered. If the fear, the exhaustion, the ache in your bones could be passed along with the old knife, the battered pouch, the fire blackened pot. If all the pain of watching, waiting, Searching could become more than a private burden, more than just another reason to keep your mouth shut and your head low. But you know that is not how it works. Memory is as thin as the smoke that rises from the fire, as fleeting as the warmth it leaves behind. No monument marks your passing. No one draws your face on bark or stone. Your name is scratched out by wind and rain, by the careless feet of children who never met you. You become another forgotten watcher, another layer in the soil beneath the camp, another story that nobody quite finishes telling. Eventually, the new scout finds an old trail, a broken arrow, a tattered scrap of leather tied to a bush. They hold it up to the light, squinting, wondering who left it there, what it meant. They ask the elders, but the answer is lost, swept away by years of hardship and hurry. The past is a luxury, a weight nobody wants to carry for long. The present is hungry, and there is always more to do. You hope, in the smallest, most stubborn part of yourself, that your presence lingers just a little. That maybe, in the way someone pauses before stepping into the dark, or the way a fire is built a little farther from the trees, there is some faint echo of your watchfulness, your fear, your stubborn need to survive. But even that is just a hope, a small, private comfort in a world that has never promised comfort to anyone. So your story ends as it must, not with a roar, but with a sigh, with the gentle closing of a circle, with the camp moving on, its memory as brief and thin as the smoke that rises and is gone before morning.